What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another Real Talk episode. Today, we are going to be talking about the 10.3, whether it is dead, whether it is obsolete, and if the 11.5 killed it. So before we get into all that, though, guys, I am doing content creation full time. So if you guys do want to support the channel, please head over to rangedaybro.com for any of our merch. We have all of our discount affiliate codes over there as well. So you can get all of our links, all the ways to support the channel over there at rangedaybro.com. We also have a loadouts page now. So if you want to check out any of the loadouts we have on any of the builds we're reviewing. This guy I still got to upload, the Griffin. It's actually the lowers right here. But I'll have all the parts and lists over there if you guys wanted to know what exactly I have on my rifles. But with that being said, now that we got that out of the way, let's just talk about this guy right here, the Mark 18, one of the most iconic uppers, I would say, in modern firearms history, and pretty much the gun that really springboarded me into the world of just getting deeper and deeper into guns, right? This was like the first premium level, I would call it, the first high-end AR that I bought. It was the Mark 18 pistol directly from Daniel Defense. Obviously, the Daniel Defense lower was different. This is the Griffin Armament lower, but this was the gun that really was the first one I really started to train with, started to take out to the range, do drills, high ready, low ready. This was the one that I put the most rounds on, especially in those early on days. And actually my first video ever on the channel, don't watch it, it's extremely cringy, was about my setup on this thing. Back then I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. So I thought I knew a lot, but I really knew so little. And only as you grow more in this industry, if you're humble enough to admit it, you'll realize how little you actually know, and myself included. But let's just talk about my experiences, what I think, what my opinion is on the Mark 18, the 10.3 inch barrel length in general, 10.3, 10.5, same thing, whether it's dead or not. And the short answer is no. The best rifle you have is the rifle you have on you. And if this is the one you have, then is it obsolete? Absolutely not. It's better than having no rifle, that's for damn sure. But where we get into splitting hairs, or like if someone's trying to get into this world, if I could go back, would I have gone with a 10.3 or the 11.5? And the answer is just simply the 11.5. For the 1.2 inches you're adding, you're getting a tremendous amount of advantage over the 10.3. But this guy has been responsible for way more, confirmed kills by real operators, real cool guys, way cooler and way better at shooting than myself. And so this guy has a proven track record. Is it a little overgassed? Yeah. Is it not the most accurate thing ever? Yes. But is it going to get the job done when push comes to shove? And for the vast majority of Americans, these are here for home defense. Now, there's definitely quite a few of my viewers, I'm sure, who are more like me, who take this a little bit more seriously, who want to have a tool for every job, right? And in that case, there's people who work on cars, and there's people who are auto mechanics, and there's people who fully rebuild from the ground up a 69 Camaro with matching part numbers. So there's levels to this, and just like with guns, just like with everything, it's the same thing with guns as well. So there's levels to it, and so, but for the vast majority of people, they might have one or two AR platforms, and the 10.3 is a great one for that shorty, for that home defense type setup. Now, before we move forward, let's just really quickly talk about the setup on this guy, because I know people are going to be asking in the comment section. So up here we have the Otter Creek Labs Polonium K. This is a great can. For full disclosure, Otter Creek Labs did send this to me a while back, and I did my combat loadout test with it through this exact Mark 18 upper, actually. So we put 7 mags through it as fast as possible, and it was fine. It totally handled it, which I expected, and Andrew over at Otter Creek Labs expected as well. So no surprises there. It is a little bit of a higher back pressure can, but it sounds really great for its size, for its weight, and it's direct threaded. So when you go direct thread, you get all the advantages of a suppressor and none of the disadvantages, in my opinion. There's some great quick detach methods out there, like Rearden, the Q. I just didn't like that Q didn't have a flash hider option, but with Rearden, it's Q compatible, and there's a bunch of flash hider options, I do believe. So that's a really cool one that I'm going to start to dive into more and more here. I don't have one yet, but I have friends who have them, and I like them a lot. So, but with that direct thread on the 10.3, it's a super short package. Also, the Polonium K just kind of looks like a bit of an old school suppressor, I guess you could say, because it's kind of fat. It looks like an older, like early 2000s suppressor. So it kind of matches the vibe of the carry handle and the quad rail. But besides that, Aero Precision quad carry handle up top, rather. I think this was a Blem one. I got it for like 70 or 80 bucks. Speaking of Aero Precision, what's going on with those guys? If anybody knows, let me know down in the comments if they're still around. Been hearing a lot of things on the internet about that. Also, I just have a QD attachment on the side here. This came with my Arsenal AK, so it doesn't have anti-rotation qualities to it. It's just a very basic QD slot, QD section rather. So for your slings, I am running the Griffin Armament lower because I'm trying to get a lot more time with this lower. It's a completely ambidextrous lower, much like the other ones on the market that look just like this one. Apparently they designed it together, so on and so forth. I don't like drama. I'm not trying to get into the drama on that. I don't know if there is drama, but it looks a lot like the ADM lower, but it works so far, so good. I like it. But besides that, everything on there is stock. Their trigger, their oversized trigger guard that's built into the lower. Their selector, very snappy. I like it. And a B5 gunfighter grip and a SBA3 brace with a Geisley airborne charging handle. Okay. It's okay, guys. Just chambered around, but clear. Okay. Geisley airborne charging handle. This was one of their blems from their blem sale. So anyways, moving on from there, from the lower, same Daniel Defense BCG that's been in there for forever. And it's just a great little upper. I mean, it's just run. I've literally I can't recall ever having a malfunction with this upper, but if I did, maybe one over 12,000 rounds that I put through this upper. It's by far, still to this day, the most rounds I've ever put through any one upper. So I actually haven't grouped it since it's gotten up so high in the round counts. So I got to regroup it and see how the barrel is doing on accuracy, but it's a Cold Hammer Forged Chrome Line Daniel Defense barrel, so I think the barrel life is somewhere upwards of 15,000 to 20,000 rounds before you start to see accuracy loss. But we should probably do a follow-up review on this here on the channel. But with that being said, the only reason I haven't put as many rounds on other guns as I have on this gun is because this was like the only reliable good gun I had for a long time, and so I just trained with it all the time. And that gets me into my main point of this real talk, which is if you have a gun, just go train with it. This is definitely not obsolete. Again, this thing, I have shot this exact upper out to 500 yards. Is it as consistent as an 18-inch SPR? Of course not. But can it be done? Absolutely. And that brings me back to another real talk topic, which is your optic dictates your capabilities, in my humble opinion. If you want accurate hits, if you want first round impacts out at distance, and by distance with this type of platform, really the 11.5 to the 12.5, all those, I'm really talking about 500 yards and in. I know people can stretch them further, but at that point, it's really not doing much when it arrives, and that's the biggest argument for the lack of velocity in the 10.3 or the 10.5 barrel length, is that when it gets there, it's not going to expand, it's not going to tumble like it should, it's not going to have the effect on target, but it's going to have an effect on target. You definitely don't want to be getting shot at with this thing, even if you're at 500 yards. So optic dictates capability way more so than the barrel length, in my humble opinion. Again, we've talked about this in another real talk. Even if, like, the difference between my two Super Duties, and I say my two because people have pointed out that I may have a very fast 12.5 barrel or very slow 12.5 barrel and a very fast 11.5 barrel rather. And if that's the case, maybe there's greater differences in different barrel finishes and so on and so forth. But whatever the difference is, when you chronograph this information, you're going to be able to plug it into an applied ballistics or some sort of ballistic calculator and then determine what the difference in drop is at 400 or 500 yards, let's say. And at 450 yards, between the 11.5 and the 12.5 Super Duty that I have, again, sample size of 1 and 1, it's only a 4-inch difference of drop. So yeah, it's going to be affected more by the wind because of that lack of velocity, but the drop is going to be consistent every time. It may have to hold just I'm talking about maybe a smidge, like an inch or two more, which in your glass is pretty much the width of your stadia line. It's not going to matter if you have a good optic. Like if I put a 1 to 10 on here, or even let's make it crazy. If I put a 5 to 25 on here, could I go out to 500 yards and hit a man-sized target consistently? I'd put money on the answer is yes. As long as the barrel hasn't been shot out, which I don't think it has. If I can group this thing at 1.5 inches to 2 inches at 100 yards, and then if I put a 5 to 25 on here, I'm certain I could take this out to 500 yards, and probably 75%. Hit after I discover my holds and what the wind is doing. I'm sure I could hit 75% of the time. The gun is capable of doing that. And so if you have a 10.3 or 10.5, don't feel this immense pressure to go pick up the new latest and greatest. Just train with it. Or if you have the dough, then why not? Just buy the upper and get a good piece of glass to go with it. You don't have to buy a whole complete rifle and spend $2,000. You can use my codes and get something for around $1,200, $1,100, $1,200, depending on which upper you want to go with and what brand. Brownell sells all that stuff, so you can have your choice. Just pick a reputable company, whether it's whoever, BCM, Daniel Defense, Geisley. You guys know I love Geisley, but there's a ton of other ones out there too. and just go ahead and train with it. It's not going to matter. But I guess that's the point of the video is I have a lot of people commenting now that I'm doing a lot of 11.5 content. They're like, man, this is really bumming me out about my 10.3. Is it still capable? And it's like, yeah, it really is. It's just, if you don't have anything right now and you're deciding, I would push you towards the 11.5 or the 12.5 over the 10.3 or the 10.5. That's just my opinion, my experience with it. It does make it a little bit easier to get accurate hits at distance, especially because 77 grain, even the heaviest weight, commercially available 5.56 round is going to get bullied around quite a bit at those distances, and that extra velocity does help. And I'm foreshadowing a little bit here, but I'm doing a comparison between the 11.5 and the 12.5 right now, the Super Duty uppers specifically, and I'm going to be putting that out here shortly, so I'll be able to come to you guys with a full, I still have to analyze the chronograph data, come to you with a full conclusion of what I'm going to be sticking with and continuing moving forward with and testing with. And it's a really tight race, to be honest with you, between the 11.5 and the 12.5. But again, maybe if it's interesting to you guys, maybe I pull this guy in the future and then evaluate it versus the 10.3, because this has been around for decades. It's been proven. A lot of people have these uppers, and there's nothing wrong with them. That's for sure. They are a little bit heavier, obviously, than the M-Lock, but now they have the RIS 3 rail, and Daniel Defense does also have, I believe, an 11.5. I think the MK18 has moved to the RIS 3, which is M-Lock, and 11.5. So somebody correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect. They may still offer both, much like Geisley. Geisley offers a 10.3 as well as the 11.5. But either way, if you wanted to stick with Daniel Defense, or, I think they have that option for you guys. So, but I don't want to drag this on longer than it needs to be. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. Again, I just have this thing kitted out the way it is right now because it looks really cool. It's kind of the retro vibe. It's my retro rifle, I guess you could say, for now. But with that being said, love you guys. Drink a lot of water. Crisis King. Thank you for everyone who watches to the end of the video. If you do want to support the channel, rangedaybro.com has all of our links. I have a tab up at the top that has like discount codes and links, and then all of our loadouts as well. This guy's not on there yet. Still working on building that up, but if you head over there, punch your email in, make sure you subscribe to my email list. I'm going to be starting to send out a daily deals email, much like Mr. Guns and Gear does, so I can give you guys the best information on the deals throughout the internet. Also, Patreon is live. I don't have any members on Patreon yet, so if you want to be one of the first in at the ground level, I would greatly appreciate that. And any ideas you have for what you want out of the Patreon, I'm all ears. So aside from that, follow me on Rumble, follow me on X as well. I'm trying to build those platforms up to kind of diversify and make sure that if I do get censored, you guys have other ways of getting my content. But again, love you guys. Thank you. Until next time, take care.